I remember the night she told me it was over. Her words hit me like a cold wave, drowning everything I thought I knew about love. I just don't feel the same anymore, she said, barely able to look me in the eyes. My world shattered, and I begged her to reconsider. But she walked away, leaving nothing but a hollow silence behind. Months went by, and I couldn't move on. Every time I thought I was healing, her name would appear in my mind, dragging me back into that painful memory. But what she didn't know was that I was changing. Slowly, I began to focus on myself. I threw myself into work, poured my soul into building something I never thought possible. Then out of nowhere, she came back. The one who had walked away. Only this time, it wasn't to apologize. It wasn't to say she was wrong. It was to beg for another chance. But I had already made my choice. Now, standing beside her best friend at the altar, I couldn't help but smile. She thought I'd never get over her, but what she didn't expect was that I had moved on, in ways she could never have imagined. Chapter 1. I still remember the first time Sophie and I met. I was 23, just out of college, uncertain about my future. She seemed perfect, everything I ever wanted. It didn't take long for me to fall hard. She was smart, beautiful, and most importantly, she saw me. Not the confused guy trying to figure out his life, but the person I wanted to be. I thought we were inseparable. Every weekend was spent together, talking about everything and nothing. We'd laugh for hours, lose track of time, and share our dreams for the future. I believed she was my future. My heart, my everything. But things changed. It started with little signs. She'd cancel plans last minute, or she'd be distant during our conversations, looking at her phone more than at me. I thought it was just stress from work. But then one evening, everything came crashing down. We were sitting on the couch, her head on my shoulder, when she said the words I never saw coming. I think we need to talk. I felt a chill run through me. She looked at me, but there was something in her eyes that I couldn't place. What's wrong? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. I don't feel the same anymore, she said softly, her eyes avoiding mine. I stared at her, unable to process what I was hearing. What do you mean? We've been fine. We've been great. She shifted uncomfortably. I don't think we are. I don't think I'm the person you need, and I can't keep pretending. Her words hit me like a slap in the face. I couldn't breathe. Are you serious? You're just going to throw this away? She didn't say anything at first, just looked down at her hands, twisting them nervously. I'm sorry, she whispered. That was it. Those words, I'm sorry, and then nothing. No explanation, no reason. Just her walking away. Just like that. It was as if that the person I loved so deeply was gone, and I couldn't figure out why. I stood there, frozen, unable to believe what just happened. My world seemed to spin around me. Sophie, the one person I trusted with everything, had just walked out of my life without any explanation. I felt empty, hollow, betrayed. How could someone who once claimed to love me just leave without any warning? But that was the worst part. She didn't even fight for us. She didn't even try to explain. I wanted to beg her to stay, to tell her I could fix whatever was wrong, but I couldn't. The pain in my chest was unbearable, and I knew it wouldn't go away anytime soon. The girl who had once been my everything had just decided I wasn't enough anymore. I wasn't worth the fight. And just like that, my heart broke, and I was left to pick up the pieces alone. Chapter 2. The days after Sophie left were nothing short of a blur. I couldn't focus on anything. I'd wake up, go to work, and come home, but my mind was always elsewhere, lost in the memory of that night. It wasn't just the shock of her leaving, it was the emptiness she left behind. I found myself replaying her words over and over, trying to make sense of it all. I don't feel the same anymore. It echoed in my mind like a curse I couldn't escape. At work, I was a ghost. My friends noticed something was off, but I couldn't bring myself to tell them what had happened. I didn't want their pity, their sympathy. I just wanted things to go back to normal. But I didn't know how. One night, a few weeks later, I was sitting at my favorite bar, nursing a drink, trying to drown out the loneliness. I was staring into my glass, lost in thought, when I felt someone sit down next to me. I didn't even have to look up to know who it was. Long day? Lily's voice was soft, and even in my broken state, I couldn't ignore how comforting it was to hear. I looked up, forcing a smile. You could say that. Lily was Sophie's best friend, and she'd always been there for me, even before the breakup. We never talked much about Sophie. It was always about other things, life, work, stupid jokes that never got old. But tonight, she seemed different, like she could see right through me. "You've been quiet lately," she said, her eyes searching mine. "You okay?" I didn't know how to answer that. How could I say I wasn't okay without sounding like I was falling apart? But I was. I was drowning and no one knew how bad it was. "I'm fine," I said, though my voice cracked. "Just adjusting." She didn't buy it. "You don't have to pretend with me, you know. I'm here, always." The words hit me harder than I expected. Lily had always been there, but I never noticed how much I relied on her presence until now. She wasn't like Sophie. She didn't pull away when things got tough. She stayed, even when I couldn't stay strong. "I don't know what to do anymore," I muttered, more to myself than to her. "I thought we had something real. I thought she loved me." Lily was quiet for a moment, letting the words hang in the air. Finally, she spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes, love isn't enough. People change, even when you don't expect it." I nodded, though it didn't make me feel any better. I wasn't sure what I expected from her, maybe some kind of magic words that would fix everything. But life didn't work like that. Nothing worked like that. I took a long drink, trying to push the thoughts away. "I just don't get it. We were happy. She was happy. Why would she leave?" Lily's eyes softened. She placed her hand on mine, comforting, but not too much. She was careful, like she knew how fragile I felt. "Maybe it's not about you. Maybe it's about her and the things she couldn't tell you. People hide things, especially when they're afraid." I didn't know if that made sense, but I didn't argue. I just nodded again, looking down at our hands, her fingers lightly wrapped around mine. It was comforting, but it wasn't enough. Nothing was enough. Sophie was gone, and I was left to pick up the pieces. But with Lily beside me, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, I could start rebuilding. The days blurred together as I tried to adjust to this new version of myself, the one without Sophie. I thought I'd never get out of the fog of sadness, but slowly I began to find a way. It wasn't easy, nothing about it was, but I needed something to hold on to, something to help me forget the pain. One night, after sitting at my desk staring at the same report for hours, I decided enough was enough. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and left the office. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep pretending to be fine. I walked to a nearby coffee shop, something quiet, something with soft music and warm light. I needed to feel alive again, to reclaim some part of me that didn't feel broken. The weight of Sophie's absence was suffocating, but I was determined not to let it define me forever. I needed a change. As I sat down with my coffee, I thought about what I could do differently. I had been so focused on her, on us, that I lost sight of myself. The job I had, the life I was building, all of it seemed meaningless now. It wasn't until that moment, sitting in the corner of that coffee shop, that I realized I hadn't done a single thing for myself in so long. I pulled out my phone and searched for a business course. I had always wanted to start something of my own. Maybe now was the time. A new project, something to focus on, something to pull me away from the endless cycle of self-pity. I signed up for a program that night. It felt like a small step, but it was the first step I had taken towards something that wasn't about Sophie. It was about me, for the first time in years. The next few weeks flew by. I threw myself into the course, and soon after, I started to explore other opportunities, business connections, side projects, and networking events. It felt like a whole new world was opening up to me. The more I immersed myself in my work, the less I thought about Sophie, and the more I began to feel a sense of accomplishment. But it wasn't just work. I was changing, evolving. I began to take care of myself, to make decisions based on what I wanted, not what someone else wanted from me. I started hitting the gym again, something I hadn't done since before the breakup. Slowly but surely, I felt stronger. Then, one evening, while attending a business mixer, I bumped into someone who made me feel like I was finally moving forward. It was Lily. She was there too, as a friend, as always, but this time, something was different. We spoke for a while, casually at first, but there was an energy between us, a shift I couldn't ignore. She noticed it too. "You're doing well," she said, her voice light, but there was something behind it, something real. "I'm proud of you." I smiled at her. "I'm just getting started. I've still got a long way to go. She chuckled softly. You always did have big dreams. It was strange. In the midst of my whirlwind of changes, there was Lily, steadily, unwaveringly there. It wasn't just her presence that was comforting. It was her faith in me. She had always believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. We spent the rest of the evening talking, laughing, and it felt easy. For the first time in months, I felt something other than sadness. Hope. Maybe that was what I needed all along, to believe in myself, to see that I could create something more than the heartbreak I'd been carrying. It was then that I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living again, and I wasn't doing it for anyone but me. The transformation wasn't just about work. It was about reclaiming my life, my confidence, my future. It was about finding the person I was meant to be without the shadow of Sophie looming over me. And as I stood there talking to Lily, something shifted. I wasn't sure where it would lead, but I knew that I was no longer stuck in the past. I was moving forward, and that was all that mattered. Chapter 4. The next few months felt like a whirlwind. My business started growing faster than I ever imagined. I was no longer the same person who had been desperate for Sophie's love and approval. No, I was becoming someone I was actually proud of. I had a vision, and for the first time in my life, it felt like I was in control. With each deal I closed, each project I completed, the weight of Sophie's betrayal began to fade, slowly replaced with a sense of power and accomplishment. I had taken the pain and turned it into something positive. And it wasn't just about the business anymore, it was about who I was becoming. But I wasn't prepared for what happened next. One afternoon, I received a message from Sophie. It was simple, too simple. It simply said, "Can we talk?" My heart skipped a beat, but I forced myself to ignore the immediate rush of old feelings. It had been months. I was no longer the man I had been when she left. I was stronger, more self-assured. But still, I felt a pull to her, even though I knew better. I stared at the message, unsure of how to respond. She had walked away, leaving me in pieces without even a hint of why. And now she wanted to talk? It didn't sit right with me. I wasn't the same guy who would drop everything for her, but curiosity got the best of me. I called her. The phone rang twice before she picked up. "Hey," she said, her voice soft, almost too soft. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral. "What's going on?" "I've been thinking," she started, hesitation in her words. "I made a huge mistake. I've realized I was wrong. I was confused and I hurt you. I'm sorry." I couldn't help but laugh, though it wasn't out of humor. It was a laugh of disbelief. "So what? Now you want to fix things? You want to come back into my life after everything that happened?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "I don't know," she finally admitted. I miss you." The words hit me harder than I expected. I wasn't angry, but I was frustrated. I had spent so much time rebuilding my life, my confidence, and now she wanted to waltz back in as if everything could be fixed with an apology, as if she could just erase the months of pain she had caused. "You left me, Sophie," I said, my voice steady, but with an edge. "You didn't just leave, you betrayed me. You didn't even give me a reason. You just walked away. And now you want to talk? After all this time?" She was quiet for a moment, her breath shaky. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I thought about you, about everything we had, and I regret it all. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I could take it back." It was too late. I wasn't the same guy who used to beg for her to stay. "I'm not that person anymore," I told her, the words coming out colder than I intended. "I've changed. I've moved on." There was a pause before she spoke again. "I don't want to lose you, not like this." But it wasn't about her anymore. I had let go. I had rebuilt myself. And I couldn't go back to a version of myself that depended on her for happiness. "You already have," I said, a finality in my tone. "You made your choice, Sophie. I'm done." I hung up the phone and sat there, staring at the screen. The woman I had once loved, the woman who had meant everything to me, was no longer a part of my world. But that wasn't what hurt anymore. What hurt was how much stronger I was without her. In that moment, I realized the true power shift. Sophie had thought I would always be there, waiting for her to come back. But now, it was me who held the power. And I was no longer interested in being her backup plan. I was moving forward with my life, with or without her. As I sat there, I felt a sense of calm wash over me, The weight I had been carrying for months had finally lifted. It was done. Sophie had lost me, not just the man I used to be, but the man I had become, and she would have to live with that. It wasn't revenge. It was just the truth. I had moved on, and nothing could bring me back. Chapter 5. The days following my conversation with Sophie were oddly peaceful. I had finally let go of the past and taken control of my life in a way I hadn't even realized I was capable of. But what I didn't expect was how much my relationship with Lily would begin to change. Lily had always been there for me, in the background, supporting me through the mess Sophie left behind. I had always appreciated her friendship, but I never looked at her the way I looked at Sophie. But the more time I spent with Lily, the more I realized that there was something deeper there, something I had been ignoring for far too long. One Friday evening, we met up at a small bar near my place. We were sitting at a quiet corner booth, talking about everything and nothing, as we always did. It had been a long week for both of us, and the drinks helped loosen our tongues. We were talking about the progress of my business, how I'd been traveling for meetings and making progress, and how great it felt to finally be in control of my own future. But I noticed that Lily wasn't as engaged in the conversation as she usually was. She kept glancing at me, her eyes soft but intense, and there was a nervous energy in the air that I couldn't ignore. I finally stopped mid-sentence, feeling a sudden shift in the atmosphere. "What's going on, Lily? You've been quiet all night." She bit her lip, hesitating before speaking. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." My heart skipped a beat. I had no idea what she was talking about, but the way she was looking at me made my stomach turn. "What is it?" I asked, my voice low. "You know you can tell me anything." She stared down at her drink for a moment, collecting her thoughts. Then, finally, she looked up at me, her eyes searching mine. "I've been in love with you for a long time, more than just as a friend. I always have been, even when Sophie was in the picture. But I didn't want to say anything, didn't want to make things complicated. I didn't want to cross a line." The words hit me like a punch in the chest. I wasn't sure how to react. I stared at her for a few moments, trying to process what she just said. Lily, the one person who had been there for me through everything, the person I trusted and confided in, had feelings for me? I felt like I should say something, but nothing seemed right. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. "Lily, I didn't know. I never saw you like that," I stammered, my mind racing. She smiled sadly. "I know. I never wanted to make you feel uncomfortable. I've always been just the friend, right?" She took a deep breath. "But I need you to know, because I can't keep pretending that I'm okay with just being your shoulder to cry on. I want more. I think I've always wanted more." I couldn't find the words to say. A part of me wanted to tell her that I was flattered, that I had no idea she felt this way, but another part of me was terrified. I'd just been through so much with Sophie. Could I open myself up to someone else so soon? Could I allow myself to be vulnerable again? "I don't know what to say, Lily," I finally admitted, my voice heavy. "I never expected this. You've been my rock, and I don't want to lose that, but I don't know if I'm ready for anything more. Not yet." Lily's expression softened, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I understand. I don't want to pressure you. I just needed to say it for my own peace of mind. You deserve someone who will love you the way you deserve to be loved. And if that's not me, I'll be okay. But I had to tell you." I could see the pain in her eyes, even if she tried to mask it with a smile. I hated knowing that I had hurt her, that I had unknowingly put her in a position where she had to confess something so personal to me. But in that moment, I realized something else. I didn't want to lose Lily. She was too important to me, and I knew I couldn't just let her go without thinking things through. "I'm not ready for a relationship, Lily," I said softly. "But that doesn't mean I want to lose you. You're still the most important person in my life, and I don't want to shut you out." She reached across the table, her hand brushing mine, and for a moment, everything felt like it could be okay. "We'll figure it out," she said quietly, "one step at a time." And in that moment, I realized that Lily wasn't just someone who had been there for me in the past. She was someone who could be part of my future. Whether that future was as friends or something more, I didn't know. But I wasn't going to shut her out. Not this time. For the first time in months, I felt something other than the weight of my past. Maybe I wasn't completely healed, but I was willing to try again. And maybe, just maybe, Lily would be the one to show me that I could love again. Chapter 6. It was a quiet afternoon when I saw the message. My phone buzzed as I was finishing up a meeting, and for a moment I didn't even want to look at it. The thought of Sophie reaching out again made my stomach churn, but curiosity won out, as it always did. It was a text from her, a simple one. I think we need to talk. I stared at the screen for a long moment, my mind racing. It had been months since we'd last spoken. Sophie had walked out of my life without a word of explanation. And now she wanted to talk? I felt a mix of anger, confusion, and, if I was being honest, something else too. A little part of me still cared, but the other part, the one that had been rebuilding his life, brick by brick, felt nothing but frustration. I debated for a while whether to reply. I had no idea what she could possibly want now, after everything. But then I found myself typing a response anyway. What is it? I hit send, barely registering the decision. I waited, breath held, for a reply. She responded quickly. Can I come over? We need to talk face to face. I couldn't stop myself from sighing. The last thing I wanted was to let her back into my life. But I had to admit, a part of me was still tethered to her. I wasn't sure if I was angry enough to shut her down completely, or if I was still harboring that hope of closure. I agreed. Fine. Come by at 7. The evening came too quickly. As I sat in my living room, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything in my life had been building up to this moment. I had made so many changes, started my own business, got in better shape, and opened myself up to new possibilities. Sophie had walked away, but I had found something resembling peace. Why was she coming back now? What did she want from me? The doorbell rang at exactly 7 p.m. I opened the door to find Sophie standing there, looking different. She wasn't the same girl who had left. Her face was pale, her eyes tired. There was a sense of vulnerability in her posture, but it didn't feel like the Sophie I had once loved. This was someone who had changed, someone who wasn't the confident, sure woman I had known. Hey, she said quietly, her voice uncertain. Can we talk? I nodded and stepped aside, letting her in. We sat on the couch, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence felt heavy, as if both of us were waiting for the other to say something important. Finally, she broke the silence. I've been thinking about us. A lot. About everything. I didn't respond right away. Part of me wanted to ask, why now? Why after all this time? But I didn't. I didn't need to know. Not anymore. I made a huge mistake, you know? She continued, her eyes downcast. I thought I was doing what was best for me, but I was just running away from everything. From you. From us. I listened, my arms crossed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever she was about to say wasn't going to be enough. The pain she caused wasn't something that could be fixed with a few words. You left me with nothing, Sophie, I said, my voice low but steady. You didn't even give me a reason, and you didn't look back. I've had to rebuild everything, my life, my trust in people, and now you're telling me you made a mistake. Her eyes welled up with tears, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. Not this time. I was confused, she whispered, her voice cracking. I thought I was doing what was best for me, but I was wrong. I was selfish. I stood up, pacing in the small living room. And what about me, Sophie? What about what was best for me? You don't get to come back into my life just because you're sorry. You don't get to undo everything you did to me. She stood too, moving closer, but I took a step back. I'm not that guy anymore. The one who would beg you to stay. The one who would wait for you to figure it out. Sophie's face contorted with emotion. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to tell you the truth. I never stopped loving you, but I messed it all up. I felt a strange calm wash over me. The rage was gone, replaced by a deep sense of finality. You're too late, I said quietly. I've moved on. I've built a life without you in it, and I'm okay with that. She looked at me for a long moment, and then something flickered in her eyes. Regret, maybe. But it was too late for that. Too late for any of it. I took a deep breath and walked toward the door. I think you should leave now. She hesitated, then nodded, wiping away the tear that had fallen down her cheek. I'm sorry. She whispered one last time before she turned and walked out of my life for good. As I closed the door behind her, I felt no relief, no triumph, just the quiet, empty feeling of closure. I was done with her, and somehow that felt like the first real victory I'd had in a long time. It was over, and now I could finally move on. Chapter 7. The days after Sophie left were quieter than I expected. I spent a lot of time reflecting, staring at the blank walls of my apartment, trying to come to terms with the conversation we had. Part of me wanted to be angry, to scream at her for wasting my time, for leaving me with nothing but the pieces of a shattered heart. But another part of me, the part that had been growing stronger for months, knew better. I didn't need to be angry. I needed to let go. But then there was Lily. The thing with Lily had always been complicated. I never realized how much I depended on her until she had put her feelings out on the table. The idea of being with her, of possibly letting our friendship evolve into something more, felt natural. It felt safe. But was I ready for that? Was I ready to move on so completely? I couldn't shake the thought of Sophie, no matter how much I tried to push it away. I kept hearing her voice in my head, replaying her apology, and a small part of me, just a small part, wondered if she really had changed. What if, in some twisted way, we could fix things? What if there was still a chance for us? But when I thought about it long enough, I realized that the person I used to be, the person I was before Sophie had walked away, was dead. He was gone, buried under the weight of all the changes I had made. I had spent so much time being the man Sophie wanted me to be. But now I had to be the man I wanted to be. And the man I wanted to be wasn't holding on to someone who didn't care enough to stay. I had started something new. I had built myself up from the ground, and I was proud of what I had accomplished. I couldn't go back to being that vulnerable, that unsure person who let someone else's actions define his worth. And then there was Lily. She had been there for me, constantly. She didn't expect anything from me. She simply offered her support, her friendship, her heart. I had seen how patient she had been, how much she cared, but I also knew she wasn't waiting for me to make a decision. She was moving forward with her own life. I could see it in the way she smiled now, the way she held herself. She deserved someone who could give her all of their heart, someone who wasn't still holding on to the past. I wasn't sure if that person was me, but I couldn't let her slip away either. The problem was that I wasn't sure if I was ready to take the next step. I wasn't sure if I was ready to open my heart again. But what I did know was this. I couldn't keep living in this limbo between what I had with Sophie and what I could have with Lily. I needed to decide. I needed to choose a path forward. I called Lily that night, my hands shaking a little as I dialed her number. She answered after the first ring. "Hey," she said, her voice calm, but I could tell she was curious. "Everything okay?" I took a deep breath. "Yeah. Can you meet me tomorrow? I need to talk." I didn't wait for a response. I just hung up and sat there, staring at the phone. My heart was racing. I had no idea what I was going to say to her, but I knew that I had to make a decision. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't feel something for her. I couldn't keep pretending I wasn't ready to move on. The next day, we met at the park. It was a quiet, sunny afternoon, the kind where everything feels like it's falling into place. Lily sat across from me, her eyes gentle, waiting for me to speak. I hesitated, not knowing where to start, but eventually I looked her in the eyes and I knew I had to say it. "Lily," I started, my voice steady but uncertain. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said the other night, about how you feel about me." She nodded but didn't interrupt. "I don't know if I'm ready for a relationship," I continued. "I don't know if I'm ready for anything more than what we have right now. But I also don't want to lose you. Not like this." Lily looked at me for a long moment, as if weighing my words carefully. Then she gave me a small smile, a smile that wasn't quite sad, but also not entirely happy. "I'm not asking for more than you can give," she said softly. "I just want to be here for you, whatever you need, and if that means we stay friends, then I'm okay with that. I just want to be in your life." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I had been so afraid of losing her that I didn't realize I was already losing her by holding back. I didn't want to let her go, but I also couldn't drag her through the uncertainty I was still working through. "I don't want to hurt you," I told her honestly, "but I need to figure this out. I need time." She nodded, her eyes soft and understanding. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here. Just don't shut me out." "I won't," I promised. "I won't." It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was the first step, a step towards something better, even if I didn't know exactly where it would lead. I had made my decision. I wasn't going to hold on to the past anymore. It was time to move forward, with or without Sophie, and hopefully with Lily by my side. Chapter 8. The day of my wedding came faster than I expected. I had spent months in this new life I'd created, building my business, healing from the past, and somehow finding my way back to happiness. But when the moment came to finally say "I do," I felt no doubt in my heart. I was making the right choice. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie, looking at my reflection. I was a different man than I was when Sophie walked out of my life. I had learned so much about myself, about my worth, and about what I truly wanted from a partner. Lily. She was the woman I had leaned on, the woman who had seen me at my lowest, yet never turned her back. The woman who had patiently waited for me to realize what had always been in front of me. The woman who loved me without expecting anything in return. She was perfect for me. And standing here, in this suit, waiting for her to walk down the aisle, I felt nothing but peace. The ceremony was small, just close friends and family. The kind of wedding I never thought I'd have. It wasn't grand, but it was ours, and that made it more beautiful than anything I could have ever imagined. As I stood there, waiting for Lily, my mind drifted to Sophie. I hadn't seen her since the day she came back into my life, begging for forgiveness. I knew she'd be here today, sitting somewhere in the back, watching. The thought didn't bother me the way it used to. In fact, it didn't bother me at all. Sophie had made her choice when she walked away, and I had made mine when I chose to move on. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was finally free. The doors to the ceremony room opened, and there she was. Lily. In a simple white dress, her face glowing with that quiet confidence I had always admired. The way she walked toward me, slow, deliberate, her eyes locked onto mine, was like everything else faded away. It was just us. I felt my breath catch in my chest. This was real. This was the life I had built, the future I had earned. As she reached the altar, I took her hands in mine. She smiled softly, but I could see the nerves in her eyes. "Are you sure?" she whispered. I chuckled lightly, my thumb brushing the back of her hand. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The ceremony went by in a blur. The vows exchanged, the rings slipped onto fingers, but it was when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," that it all became real. As I kissed Lily, I felt something inside me shift completely. It was a release, a feeling of finality. Everything that had come before didn't matter anymore. All that mattered was this moment, this woman standing beside me, and the future we would build together. As we walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, I couldn't help but glance around the room. Sophie sat at the back, her eyes a little red, her expression a mixture of regret and sorrow. But I didn't feel the need to confront her. I didn't need her validation anymore. She was part of my past, and I had a future now, one that didn't include her. The reception that followed was everything I had imagined and more. Friends, family, laughter, music. It wasn't about the extravagant details. It was about us, Lily and me, celebrating the life we were starting together. As the night wore on and the dancing started, I pulled Lily close, holding her tightly as we moved together to the slow rhythm of the song. She looked up at me, her eyes sparkling with joy, and I knew in that moment that all of my pain, all of my heartache had led me here, to her, to the woman who is now my wife. "I love you," I whispered. She smiled, her hand resting against my chest. "I love you too." And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly at peace. Sophie's betrayal had shaped me, but it was love, true love, that had healed me. We were finally moving forward, together, into a future where nothing and no one could ever tear us apart. This was my second chance. This was my redemption, and it was just the beginning. Chapter 9. As I stood there, watching the world around me, everything felt different. It was like I was seeing life through a new lens. It was strange how much had changed in such a short amount of time. The man I was, before Sophie left, was a shadow of the man I had become. The pain, the confusion, the heartbreak, they were all in the past now. They had shaped me, yes, but they didn't define me. The man I had been wasn't the same man standing here today, holding Lily's hand as we walked through this new chapter of our life. Lily and I had just returned from our honeymoon, and everything about our new life felt right. She was my anchor, my home. I realized now, looking at her, how much I had taken for granted before, how much I had allowed my fears to dictate my life. But now, I was no longer afraid. Not of losing her, not of failure, not of the past. The future was bright, full of possibilities, and I was ready to embrace it all. No more second-guessing, no more wondering what might have been. I had everything I needed right here in front of me. "I can't believe we're really doing this," Lily said one evening as we sat on the couch, sipping wine. The room was filled with soft light, the kind that made everything feel peaceful and perfect. "After everything, we're finally here." I smiled and kissed her forehead. "Yeah, we are, and we're only getting started." It wasn't just the business I had built or the love I had found with her. It was everything. The way I had finally learned to love myself, the way I had stopped living in the past, and the way I had opened myself up to the future. For the first time, I felt like I was truly living. I thought about Sophie, but it didn't hurt anymore. She had made her choices, just as I had made mine, and I had to let go of that part of me that was still angry, still waiting for something that would never come. The pain of betrayal had given me the strength to rebuild, but it was love and growth that had given me the courage to move forward. "What now?" Lily asked, her eyes playful, a teasing smile on her lips. "What's next for us?" I looked out the window, my heart filled with hope for the future, whatever we want, whatever we make of it. And, for the first time, I knew deep down that whatever came next, I was ready for it. With Lily by my side, I had everything I needed. I was reborn, and this time, nothing could take away my peace. We had created something beautiful from the wreckage of the past, and I knew we'd keep building it, one day at a time. This was just the beginning.